My name's Rob Hutchings. I'm from a little town called Cornerbrook, Newfoundland in Canada. I live in Christchurch, New Zealand. In about April 2019, I learned about the Clutha River, and I'd heard it was the most powerful river in New Zealand. I decided I wanted to have a go at trying to swim it. The first thing I was told when I started making inquiries was that it absolutely couldn't be done. The river was too powerful, and only an idiot would try to do it. So I made it my mission to have a go at it. So after I started learning more about the Clutha River, learning that it was the second longest river in New Zealand and by far the most powerful in terms of water volume and current strength, I was asking some of the fellow swimmers in the community and also a lot of the kayakers, had this river ever been swam? Plenty of rivers around the world have been swam, longer rivers and so forth, but I found out that no one had ever actually swam the full length of the Clutha River from Wanaka, where the outlet is, to the Pacific. So basically I found out reasonably quick that I would be the first to ever probably even think of it, and definitely the first to ever really have a go at it. I was confident in my ability to train to swim the Clutha River, even though I didn't know exactly how long it would take. I estimated it would take 5 or 6 days. With my 30-year background in triathlon and marathon swimming, I was confident I could build the necessary fitness. I'm not a marathon swimming purist, so to speak. I still train mostly as a triathlete, with a little more emphasis on the swimming, of course, than the average triathlete. I do most of my trail running using poles so that I get the upper body workout, and that's an excellent cross-trainer for marathon swimming. And I love it because I still enjoy running, and I'm not prepared to miss out on time on the trails and in the mountains to devote myself solely to marathon swimming. I also ride my bike a lot, both road cycling, mountain biking, and I do a lot of cycle touring and mountain bike packing. Cycle touring is a great way to see the world. It's great fitness, it's adventurous, and one of the things I love about it is that you can stop wherever you want if you find a beautiful area, and there's no pressure to keep going. Plus, the multi-day nature of it has great crossover benefits for the multi-day swimming that I wanted to do. So getting ready for the Clutha River swim, lots of training. I was confident I could do that. What concerned me was the fact that I'd had so many adventures over the years. This one was going to be likely the most dangerous one I'd ever been on, and I've had a lot of great experiences on my adventures. One thing I learned over the years from trekking in Mongolia and nearly getting trampled by wild horses, running across the Australian outback, swimming across different lengths of water, whether it was in a lake or in the ocean, nothing generally goes according to plan. And this seemed like an expedition where if it didn't go according to plan, it could be really bad. That was my biggest concern. To both train for the Clutha and to just enjoy other adventures, I did a few other multi-day expeditions in the lead up to the Clutha River swim. In December 2019, I did a self-made 3-day swim trek, 2 days in Marlborough Sounds, and 1 day on the Pelorus River. A friend of mine who's a sailor in Picton supported my swims through Marlborough Sounds, and Pelorus Eco Adventures supported my swim down the Pelorus River. In January 2020, I organized a self-made adventure triathlon. For over 7 hours and 42 kilometers, I swam the lower Buller River on the first day. The next 2 days, I rode my mountain bike along the Paparoa track, and on the final day, I organized a small group to run to the summit of Avalanche Peak in Arthur's Pass. Some of my earliest experiences in swimming and being told I can't do something was when I was 14. The community swim team only operated during the school year, so during the summer months when I wanted to train for a triathlon, I had to go to the adult swimming sessions. The only trouble was they were for 18 years and older. I started trying to go in when I was 14. The 2 different swimming pools that were in town, both pool managers took extreme exception to the fact that I wanted to swim when I wasn't old enough to do it, and I'd often get kicked out of the adult swimming sessions or get in trouble shortly after completing a session. Sometimes I'd go to the session, get kicked out after maybe 45 minutes, and then I'd have to go down to the river or to the lake, which in my hometown was freezing cold except for 2 months of the year. So I used to joke that while other kids were getting in trouble for doing drugs, I was causing trouble by wanting to go for a swim. Maybe in retrospect, that turned out to be a good thing in training my mindset for wanting to do something that I've been told couldn't or shouldn't be done.
So I'm Sam. I was one of Rob's 2 safety kayakers for his Clutha River swim, and
I'm Laura. I was also another safety kayaker for the swim.
Primarily my responsibilities were paddling up ahead and scouting the river to make sure there was nothing too dangerous coming ahead. We had kind of done a lot of the legwork beforehand, looking at Google Maps to see where rapids were and stuff like that. But obviously,
being on the river.
Yeah, obviously, it was the first time going down the whole river. Can't get the time to do it multiple times, so just kind of scouting the rapid ahead of time, and then Laura was actually on Rob the whole time.
Yeah, so I was with Rob throughout the whole river, so I was on him throughout the rapids and the flat sections. It was my job to make sure he was topped up on food and water and had enough energy to get down the river. I also directed him through all the rapids to make sure he had the right path, didn't end up in rocks or whirlpools, and I was also there to grab him if he needed me. But
we were first introduced to Rob through really just a Facebook group. I saw a post of his saying that he was hoping to swim the entire Clutha, and it sounded like an interesting adventure. So I sent him a message, and we just kind of talked for a few months leading up to the trip, and then we first finally met him the day before we were to set off on the river.
We met him in Wanaka because we were starting at the lake outlet just outside Wanaka. We met him the night before, had dinner. Next morning up at 7 a.m, met up with a news crew at the river outlet, and that was it, in the water on the way.
The most common question I was asked, beyond why are you doing this, was, are you going to swim up or down river? I began to joke that I found it flattering that not an insignificant number of people believed, at least for a moment, that I might actually be capable of swimming against the Clutha River. Once people learned that I was swimming downriver, a fair number of people thought it would be just an easy cruise downstream. River swimming, despite obviously going faster than in a pool, a lake, or in the ocean, it's actually harder work because as you do your stroke, your arm is actually moving against the oncoming current. In regular open water swimming, you also have to do a lot of sighting to see where you're going and make sure you're swimming in the straightest possible line. In river swimming, you have to do all of that, plus you had to be ready to sprint and change direction at a moment's notice to avoid the obstacles such as a rock or to get around a sharp bend in the river without being swept into the banks. So unlike in regular open water marathon swimming, you actually have to do a lot of sprinting right in the middle of doing a long distance challenge.
Having Rob in the water the whole time was definitely an interesting challenge. From a whitewater kayaking background, your goal is to not have people in the water, so figuring out how to support someone who's in the water and intentionally in the water the whole time was kind of an interesting and fun challenge.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Like most adventurers and endurance athletes, I've read hundreds of accounts of different expeditions and adventures, watched plenty of documentaries of different things like mountain climbing, river swimming, swimming channels, riding your bike across different countries and that sort of thing. And in almost all of these accounts of different expeditions and adventures, the subject of mindset almost always comes up. And it's a very interesting topic, one I've put a lot of thought and research into over my 30 years of doing triathlons and different types of adventures. So I'm quite fascinated with the subject of mindset. Very often in these accounts of big adventures, particularly mountain climbing, and certainly some of the larger rivers in the world that have been swam, different channels, people have this attitude that I'm going to do this or I'm going to die trying. The trouble with the do-or-die mindset, in my opinion, is all too often it ultimately means that getting to the end of the adventure, whether that's summiting the mountain, getting to the mouth of the river, riding your bike to the end of the country, whatever type of adventure you're on, it often means that the end is more important than the journey itself. And if getting to the end is the most important thing, unfortunately that leads to hubris. Best case scenario there is you don't enjoy the adventure. Worst case scenario is you end up in tragic circumstances leading to severe injury or even death. So I really like pushing my body. I like the challenge of exploring my physical, mental, and emotional limits. But I also like to have fun. So if the Clutha River swim was going to be a miserable experience all week for the brief moment of joy at the river mouth, to me, it wouldn't be worth it. If there's no joy on the river, I don't think I could enjoy the river mouth either. I'm sure there's probably adventurers who disagree with that. That's just how I looked at it. So one of the things I did to train my mindset for swimming the Clutha was think back to an experience I had growing up. My hometown triathlon, a very small town, a local businessman named Bill Barry really got behind the race, and he and several other people transformed the race into quite a big race, and we ended up hosting the Canadian National Triathlon Championships on a few occasions. And at the National Championships race party, Bill gave a speech that he wanted to see the World Cup Triathlon held in Corner Brook. Someone said to him, the car park for where the transition area and the finish line was, it was on the government building, which was called the Sir Richard Squires building. That's where the transition area and finish line was held. Someone told him the car park isn't big enough to hold all the bikes for a World Cup triathlon. His response was, "Boys, if we got to tear down the Sir Richard Squires building, well, we got to tear down the Sir Richard Squires building. Simple, we'll figure it out." And sure enough, they did figure out a way. They didn't actually have to tear down the Sir Richard Squires building in the end, but I found that attitude of never say die. Once you decide you're going to do something, figure out a way to do it. And that was helpful for me swimming the Clutha and preparing for it, and also in many of the races and expeditions I'd been on in the years past. He was a very influential man, and I'm really grateful to all the support he gave me and some of the other locals, and I'm grateful for that speech that he gave about tearing down this Richard Squires building. I'm motivated and inspired by a lot of different things, but I tend to get especially motivated when somebody tells me that something I've got in mind to do is impossible. I tend to ask the question, why? Why is that impossible? Then I'll try to figure out a way to do it. First, being a very unnatural athlete, when I was 14, I was told I could never ever do a triathlon. Later, I was told I could never complete an Ironman. I was then later told I could never qualify for the Canadian national triathlon team. There were many such examples, and sure enough, I was told that I couldn't possibly swim the Clutha. I certainly haven't succeeded at everything I've ever tried, but I've always had a go at whatever came to mind.
Hey Rob, we're going to move towards the left. After this rapid, we'll get a gel, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's also harder to be able to take in your food and your sports drinks in regular intervals. In most long-distance swimming challenges, swimmers are fed at regular intervals by their support boat crew. That's certainly the theory in river swimming as well, but there are times when you just can't stop for food, as there could be rapids, an obstacle or a bend in the river, or some other reason why you just can't stop right now and take a gel, a sports bar, or an energy drink. For about, I don't know, 5 seconds or whatever that was.
Smashed it.
The banana count is at number 4. We're having a banana tally for the swim, so this is banana number 4. In November 2019 and late January 2020, just 3 weeks out before the Clutha River swim was scheduled to start, New Zealand was hit by severe storms. This resulted in flooding along many of the rivers, including the Clutha. The flooding along the Clutha River was so severe that the river burst its banks. River flow is measured in cubics, that's cubic meters of water per second. Near the mouth of the Clutha, it averages 600 cubics. That's more than triple the average of most other New Zealand rivers. In early February 2020, just after the storm, the flood waters reached 3,200 cubics, and it didn't fully recede until 3 days before I started the swim.
Hey! Nailed it!
Pretty cruisy. Such a fun move where it like curves off the rocks.
Nailed it! How did that feel?
One little thing I was in there for, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
You start coming right. Keep going right. good?
We're good.
Keep going. Get out of there. Nice one. Woo! Good job. Hey, hey. Nice one. Good job. First part of the day. Whoop whoop.
First leg done.
First section done.
Nice work.
Good job, Rob.
Finishing sprint.
Nice one.
Absolutely. Upper Clutha done.
Woo! Good job.
So we finished the Upper Clutha pretty much at the time we thought we might. It took just over 4 hours to get that 44 kilometers or so. We had lunch at the beginning of Lake Dunstan, and the hope was that we could get across Lake Dunstan, which is about 14 kilometers long, for the second half of the first day. I was optimistic that we could, and fortunately we had really good conditions and it worked out perfectly. So we made it to the Cromwell Bridge for the end of day one, which ended up just being over 8 hours worth of swimming for the whole day. What I didn't know was that there wasn't actually any current going through the Cromwell Gorge after Lake Dunstan. I knew Lake Dunstan was obviously still water, but I thought there was some current after it going through the Cromwell Gorge as we approached the Cromwell Dam. Turned out there was no current, so for the start of day two in the Cromwell Dam, it was about 17 kilometers, what I thought would be some current assist for at least for a while, but turns out through the gorge there's no current at all, and it took about 5 hours or so to finish that part of the swim, when I thought it might take about 2 to 2.5 hours with the current. So that was my first indicator that maybe we weren't going to be able to finish the full Clutha River. Maybe the current after the Upper Clutha wasn't as strong as I'd been led to believe in the research that I'd done. So that was the first hint of doubt that we might not make it to the end of the Clutha, because we had to do a lot more still water swimming through that section than I originally thought. Yesterday. The Cromwell Bridge is literally just around the corner there, where the Cromwell Gorge will start. It's a relatively slow current compared to the rest of the Clutha, so this the 17k of the Cromwell Gorge. Be interesting to see how long that takes. And then there's the forced exit around the Clyde Dam. Our goal is to get to Alexandra, and we're going to make some decisions about how far we go past there once we have lunch either in Clyde or Alexandra, but it really depends on what the day brings. This has been a fantastic adventure so far. This is the start of day 3. We're in the town of Alexandra, or as the locals call it, Alex. We're aiming this morning, or by lunchtime, to get to just before Roxburgh Dam. And we don't know what the current's going to do, so this swim could take 3 hours, could take 6 or more. So we'll see how it goes. And if all goes well, we'll get to where our accommodation is in Miller's Flat sometime this afternoon. But it all depends on how fast we go this morning.
It looks like it's moving out there.
Yep, it's moving here. We'll see what it's doing closer to the dam.
All right, enjoy.
So then there's the question of why. Why on earth would you swim the Clutha River? And there's a lot of cliche responses to doing any kind of big expedition of any kind. Because it's there is perhaps the most famous one, George Mallory climbing Everest. Because I can is another response. That one doesn't apply to me because I didn't know that I could. I just knew that I could try and see what happens. There's a lot of ways of framing it. I knew I wanted to do a multi-day swimming challenge, and I love staged events that take about 3 to 6 days to do. I love pushing my body in challenging and beautiful environments. But I could take a long time and beat around the bush and try to answer the why question, but it comes down to the fact that I really like swimming. One of my favorite movies of all time is Forrest Gump. And one of my favorite lines from that movie applies here, with a slight variation. Nobody would believe that someone would do all that swimming for no particular reason. I just felt like swimming. One very unexpected problem we had leaving the Roxburgh Gorge. Driving on a remote road through some farmland to get around the Roxburgh Dam, we had to open a gate, but we were blocked by horses. We tried various things to distract them, and they all failed, until we finally decided to reach into the lunch boxes, and we threw some carrots out the window. While the horses ate the carrots, Sam and Laura quickly sprinted to open the gate, and we drove the van through. Of all the things I'd planned for, all the things that I thought could go wrong, getting delayed by horses during a river swim never actually entered my mind as a possibility. End of day 3. We are at Miller's Flat Bridge. That was 27K. I think it was just over 2 hours. Not 100% sure we'll get the exact time. It took us 5 hours and change to do 25K this morning through the Roxburgh Gorge. Just over 2 hours to do 27K after the Roxburgh Dam. I love that current.
You still look like you got lots of energy.
I'm looking forward to that hot tub tonight. I am very, very excited about that hot tub tonight.
So how's it been crewing for Rob in kayaks?
It's been great. It's been a lot of work. Swims pretty fast. But no, it's been awesome. You know, we've just gotten a chance to experience an amazing river, and doing it with him has been really, really impressive, and just kind of a great experience overall.
Try and keep up with them.
Yeah.
So is it hard to keep up with him on this fast-moving water?
Yeah, so in the lakes it's a little bit easier to keep up with him, just because there's no current pushing him along. But on the rivers, you know, I think he actually might even be going faster than we are, just
He
'cause
benefits from that current, underwater current.
a little bit more. When we have a headwind, it's just pushing us upstream when he's not really affected by it. So like yesterday afternoon, trying to go out ahead in Scout Rapids was kind of a mission, just because it's yeah, he's moving so quick. It's
Yeah,
tough
you
to
wouldn't
get in front of him,
realise
yeah.
that. You wouldn't think
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how are you feeling for the last big day today?
Pretty good.
Excited.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah,
You
we're
know,
excited
definitely.
to get the last big day out the way. Rob's absolutely killing it. He did 27k in 2 hours yesterday, so we're hoping to do 8 to 8 today. I think it's pretty doable.
Yeah. I think we're all getting a little bit tired, but definitely still have enough energy to keep going. You know, take
Our hands are all
some
taped
blisters
up.
here and there, but you know, definitely not too worse for the wear.
Awesome. So 88 today is the aim.
That is the aim for today.
Yeah.
Well, have fun out there.
Yeah. Cheers.
Nice one, Rob. Nice one. Jump. Nice one.
So you lined up perfectly. So you take open the block between the two sets of rocks.
Yeah, I see it. Cool.
Or if you end up right of those rocks, I'll be honest.
Over this way. You're all good. You're all good. Woo! Good job. Absolutely smashed it. Good job, Rob. Woo! Wow! Woo-hoo! That was fun! That was a perfect line. I don't think that was a perfect line if I don't say so myself.
rock.
You hit a rock?
Yeah. It's just
Sore?
nothing serious, just out. Are we good for food here, or are we gonna...
Let's get around these rocks just so we don't get pushed into them. And then we should be good.
Yeah, I was lifting my chest up and my foot sank a bit, my left foot hit a rock.
You think you've hurt it, or is it just...
No, it's just probably a tiny bruise, but...
Not ideal.
That'll do.
There's a little rock in here.
Alright.
So we're just going to go right of these rocks, and the current's going to go round to the left.
You guys all good?
Yeah, we're good. Rob just hit his foot on a rock, but he's all good.
Gotcha, okay. There's another rapid coming up right down here.
Good job, guys.
This is Clutha River Swim Day 4. This is the last, likely the last big session we're going to do. We're aiming towards Clutha. If we can get there in about 3 hours or less, we'll do that. If we're not quite there yet in 3 hours, we're going to stop just about 5K before we get there. Stay in Clutha tonight, and it'll be a nice short swim tomorrow morning to the mount. I can't overstate the support that my wife Tansy gave us. When I told her that I wanted to swim the Clutha River and I asked her to drive the support van, I think she might have thought originally that she'd end up having a relaxing river holiday, sipping lattes by the river while waiting to pick us up. What she actually did was work harder than we did. She kept the gear organized in the van, she cooked all her meals by the river and in her hotels, she kept in radio contact with Sam and Laura the whole time, getting updates. She managed the social media, and she looked after us at lunchtime and at night. I did make it up to her later by taking her to a relaxing music festival shortly after the swim was over, and she gets to decide on what to do for the next holiday.
Cheering you guys on. You guys got this.
I can hear you. Woohoo!
Yeah, we're at the big rapid right now. It's all good to go.
G'day, I thought I would drop in and say hello and just let you know a bit more about day 4. So we started at Miller's Flat today, and we've got super fast water today, quite a few small rapids, and the water's moving pretty well. So it's actually been a bit tricky for me just to even keep up with them. I was on a dirt road before, which fortunately had no traffic, unlike what I just had then, where I could pretty much just stop wherever I wanted and get some footage. And so I've been spending a bit of the morning on top of the car, as you can see. So I'm on the van, road behind me, I've got a pull out, river beside me, trying to get some footage whenever Rob's going through some of the rapids and things like that, and just seeing how they're going, and also staying in constant contact with them. So we've got radio, so I can hear what's going on for them, and if they need any support, or if something is coming up, or where we're going to meet for lunch and things like that. Today I've packed their lunch for them in case we don't get to meet. Sometimes it's hard to get from one side of the river to the other when the river's moving so fast. So it looks like Rob's going to be to schedule to finish tomorrow, probably morning or midday or something like that is what we're sort of thinking. So it's been a lot of fun and unbelievable. I think when you're out here on the road and driving the distances that Rob's swimming, it's just blows your mind. It really does. You know, even for me, being in the car is exhausting, you know, on dirt roads and stopping and starting and U-turns and reversing and all the things that I've had to do in order to keep up with them or find them down unusual sort of little parks and roads and things like that. We're in a pretty remote area, so at the moment where we are, we don't have any telephone service, and most of the towns around here are just, well, probably less than a few hundred people as well, so it's pretty remote. And yesterday was, well, a little bit nerve-wracking. You know, where I was driving, I came to sort of a cliff face, and the gully was beneath me, and it was like, how do I get down there? And I had to do a bit of scouting and walking around just to see how I could get down to the water. Had a moment of thinking, you know, can I get to them to get them up and around the dam? But it's all good, all safe and sound, and Rob's super, you know, going super well. He's got so much energy. It's you know, he's not coming out of the water like exhausted. It doesn't look like he's just swum a marathon essentially. He's just absolutely loving it. So it's really wonderful to see him in his element. So it's just been amazing. It's great to have everyone here watching, and we'll keep you up to date.
That was the Clutha River swim, day 4 complete. We swam 84 kilometers today. I think we can safely say that's my personal best. We're just approximately 4K upriver from the town of Clutha. So we have, I think it's 21 or 22K left to go. So we'll come back to this exact spot tomorrow morning, swim under the Clutha Bridge, and maybe it'll take 2 hours and change to get to the mouth tomorrow morning. I hit 2 or 3 lulls this afternoon. Thanks to an espresso sports gel, I got through one of them, and singing a Garth Brooks song, The River, got me through the other. And but right now I actually feel pretty good. My shoulders won't complain about stopping after tomorrow though. But this is the most epic adventure I've ever been on. I'm so thrilled with what we're doing. So this is the final day of the Clutha River swim. As you can probably tell, I'm losing my voice a little bit. This is the Clutha Bridge just behind us. We're going to start approximately 3 or 4 kilometers, I think it is, upriver, and it's about a 22K swim to the end. Unbelievable. This has been being planned since April of last year, and unbelievable what we've done so far. Can't believe it's almost over, and I'm absolutely thrilled with what we've done. Glamorous world of river swimming.
Oh, I missed that.
This is the start point of the final session. Hopefully it'll take about 2 hours in this running water. And we're in a paddock, and it doesn't smell too good around here right now. So as I said, this is a very glamorous sport that I've gotten myself into.
tree.
Bye now.
You're really moving already. And Rob's away.
Miss the beach. Pacific. It took 5 days, well, 4 days and about, I don't know if that was 2 or 3 hours. That was the most unbelievable adventure of my life. I really can't believe we pulled that off because I self-organized that, came up with the idea, did all the logistical planning pretty much myself, and that I just kind of overwhelmed. I wish I could say something that's really philosophical and inspiring, but I just would say to anybody who comes up with any kind of crazy ideas, just follow your heart and do what you love. I love swimming. If you love going for a bike ride, if you like walking your dog, or you like lifting weights or doing yoga, whatever it is that lights you up, just follow your heart, do what you love, and don't let anyone tell you you can't.
Your dream is like a river, ever changing as it flows, and a dreamer is just a vessel that must follow where it goes, trying to learn from what's behind him, never knowing what's in store, makes each day a constant battle just to stay between the shores. And I will sail my vessel till the river runs dry, like a bird upon the wind. These waters are my sky. I'll never reach my destination if I never try. So I will sail my vessel till the river runs dry. Too many times we stand aside and let the waters slip away to what we put off till tomorrow has now become today. So don't you sit upon the shoreline and say you're satisfied. Choose to chance the rapids, dare to dance the tide. And I will sail my vessel till the river runs dry, like a bird upon the wind. I will sail my vessel till the river runs dry. And there's bound to be rough waters, and I know I'll take some falls. With my heart as my captain, I can make it through them all. And I will sail my vessel till the river runs dry. Like a bird upon the wind, these waters are my sky. I'll never reach my destination if I never try. So I will sail my vessel till the river runs dry. Yes, I will sail my vessel till the river runs dry. Till the river runs dry.